This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a wake-up call. We share it so you don't repeat their mistakes.
She packed lace like it was linen. I stepped into the bedroom and there she was, back turned, gently folding what looked like a sheer black teddy, something I hadn't seen on her in years, into the corner of a brand new Samsonite. My name barely left my mouth when she glanced over her shoulder, her voice breezy. Don't be jealous. It's just Rome. Alan invited me. He's in town for a work thing. Then came the kicker, her smile, that tight, practiced smirk that didn't quite reach her eyes. It's harmless, she added, as if any man alive would believe that sentence while watching his wife slide stilettos next to silk lingerie in a carry-on. Alan, as in your ex? I asked, tone flat. Mm-hmm, she chirped, like we were discussing a high school reunion, not her reuniting with the guy who once sent her a Valentine's Day video montage set to Norah Jones. We're just going to catch up. Walk the old city. I'll be back Sunday. Don't spiral. She didn't even try to lie well. No elaborate excuse, no stumbling, just pure, condescending calm, as if the sheer absurdity of her honesty was supposed to disarm me. And maybe it did, for a second. Because I said nothing, I just nodded. That alone seemed to irritate her more than if I'd shouted. By the sixth time she said, "Don't be insecure," I was staring at the floor, not out of shame, but to hide the smile that was beginning to form. Not the ha-ha kind, the oh really kind. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like most guys, 95% of you aren't subscribed, you might want to change that. It keeps the team caffeinated and the stories coming. She left the next morning in jeans and a cashmere sweater, but carried a suitcase that buzzed with secrets. Said she'd booked her own hotel, dropped the name of it casually like it was supposed to calm me. The kind of hotel that charges extra for espresso and doesn't list prices on the menu. She kissed her coffee, not me, and vanished out the door with a flip of her hair and the soft clack of boots that weren't made for cobblestones. I didn't chase, I didn't fight, I sat down, logged in, opened up my browser like I was checking the weather, and typed in Alan's name. I expected a private profile, maybe a couple outdated photos from a golf course or a half marathon. What I didn't expect was a man who documented his life like a travel blogger with abandonment issues, beaches, boardrooms, wine cellars, but what stood out wasn't the scenery, it was the woman, always there, same eyes, same hand on his arm, same caption beneath different sunsets. My world. My anchor. Melanie. I clicked through weddings, brunches, a sleepy photo of them on a balcony in Portugal with the tag 8 years strong today. Her smile seemed real, not performative, not curated, real. So now I was staring at something new, a story I wasn't a part of, unfolding in parallel. One where my wife was the again in he's doing it again. One where this Rome trip wasn't spontaneous, but tradition. I sat back, cracked my knuckles, and opened notes. I wrote a single line. Hi, Melanie, I think we should talk. Then I stared at it for a long time, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I suddenly realized I wasn't angry yet. I was studying, learning, watching the last scene of a play I'd been acting in for 15 years without knowing the script, and something inside me clicked. Not rage, not sorrow, something colder, more dangerous. I hit send. Then I poured myself a drink and waited. She didn't say goodbye, just adjusted her sunglasses at the door, smoothed the front of her blouse, which coincidentally was sheer enough to make any customs officer take a second look, and winked. Don't wait up, Caroline said with a little sing-song lilt, like she was heading to brunch with the girls, not a Roman rendezvous with a man she used to whisper about in her sleep. The door clicked shut. The car pulled away. I didn't move from the kitchen stool, just listened to the sound of our marriage evaporating in real time, like the hiss of steam from the kettle I never poured. I waited for the flight confirmation. Watched the departure board online until the Rome-bound number switched to in air, no chance of a U-turn now. Then I opened Facebook again, found Melanie's profile, unlocked, open like a hallway light left on by mistake. Her bio was a quote from someone famous I couldn't place. Grace is power under control. Fitting. I didn't draft a novel. No backstory, no passive-aggressive hints. I typed, Hi Melanie, I'm David. My wife is in Rome with your husband. I thought you should know. I stared at it for 10 minutes before hitting send, then I stood, did the dishes, folded a towel that didn't need folding, poured a drink, and poured it out. Half an hour passed, then an hour. I figured that would be it, silence or a block. Then my phone buzzed, so he invited her again. Interesting. That was the first message, no greeting, no outrage, just a sentence that told me everything. 5 minutes later, "Can you talk?" I stepped outside. Cold air, quiet street, dialed the number she gave. She picked up after 2 rings. Her voice was clear, unrushed, not a tremble in it. "I figured it out 2 years ago," she said. Didn't know her name, but the timing always lined up. May, September, always the same months. I'd get receipts for flights he didn't mention. His shirts would come back from the cleaners with perfume I don't wear. I stayed quiet. "You married, David?" 15 years. She hummed. "Me? 16? Funny how we got the same amount of nothing to show for it." There was a pause. "Do you want fireworks?" she asked. "Because I'm not good at that. I don't scream. I don't throw things. I don't post Facebook rants, but I do." "Wait, I'm not looking for chaos," I said. "Good," she said. "Then we're on the same page." There was a rustling sound on her end, maybe papers. "I've been watching for a while," she continued, "saving things, screenshots, airline confirmations, shared drives, nothing conclusive, until now. If she's there, then it's not just theory anymore. It's pattern, ritual." "And you want to do what exactly?" I asked. She exhaled. "Not now, not loud. But when it lands, when it matters, it lands hard. I want timing. I want leverage. I want them to think they're safe until the moment they aren't." I leaned against the porch rail. The wind picked up. You still love him?" I asked. There was a beat of silence. "I don't think that's the right word anymore," she said. "But I know where his money is. I know what's in both our names, and I know how to make it count." I nodded slowly, even though she couldn't see me. "I'm not looking to burn the house down," I said. "Just want to make sure she doesn't think she's walking away clean." "Then let's help each other," she said, "not with noise, with timing." We didn't say goodbye, just hung up. I stood out there a while longer, staring at the dark, trying to decide whether I felt better or worse. Still not sure. But I knew this. I wasn't alone in this anymore, and whatever came next wasn't going to be a scene. It was going to be a strategy. The first photo Melanie sent was from 2017, a blurry image of Alan at a hotel bar in Lisbon. She'd snapped it from behind a magazine, apparently, said she was supposed to be flying out the next morning to meet him there, but he'd called last minute and told her not to come. Meeting got extended, he claimed. She had a bad feeling and boarded the plane anyway. Found him laughing with someone at the bar. Couldn't see the woman's face, just her hand on his knee, and a familiar silver charm bracelet dangling from her wrist. It was the same bracelet I'd bought Caroline on a layover in Heathrow. Melanie hadn't confronted him then. She'd gone back to the airport and flown home, told me she spent the next 2 years doubting herself, gaslighting herself, replaying it in her head, and wondering if maybe she was crazy, but she never forgot that bracelet. She'd collected more since, receipts, timestamps, metadata from shared cloud calendars Alan hadn't realized she still had access to. She forwarded everything to me, no commentary, just file after file. I opened them slowly, one by one. Alan's trip to Vancouver in March 2020. Caroline had told me she was at a conference in Denver. I remembered it because it was right after my brother's emergency surgery, and she'd insisted it was bad timing to cancel. Her conference badge, tucked away in our junk drawer since then, said Calgary. I remembered because I'd thrown it in the trash that week, and she took it out and said she might need it for taxes. Alan's trip to Florence in 2019, she told me she was visiting an old college roommate in Chicago. Funny how both their flights landed in Rome within the same hour. I started looking back through my own digital life, my Google Calendar, my iCloud albums. In October 2018, we canceled our 10-year anniversary trip to Charleston. She said work was too hectic. I spent the weekend at home watching a documentary about sea turtles and eating leftover pad thai. Meanwhile, she'd posted a single photo from a girls' weekend, just a blurred skyline, no faces. I zoomed in. The skyline wasn't Charleston, it was Barcelona. I matched the tower in the corner to a photo in one of Alan's folders Melanie had sent. I scrolled faster, scanned receipts, airline itineraries, hotel bookings. Melanie was right. These weren't accidents. They were events, scheduled, maintained, repeated. There were overlaps going back 11 years. 11. We were still renting back then. She was still working 2 jobs, trying to help us get ahead, and she'd still found time, somehow, somewhere, to fly across the world and be with someone who wasn't me. It wasn't that she had a second life. She had a second marriage, one that operated in shadows and business class lounges. I just funded the off weeks. My chest felt tight, but I wasn't crying. No, I was cataloging, sorting memories into 2 columns, before I knew and after I knew. You know what really broke me? There was a calendar entry from April 2015. It said Dan's Little League game in her handwriting. I remembered that day. She never showed. Texted that she was stuck in traffic on the 101. We waited in the bleachers for 2 innings before Dan gave up looking for her in the parking lot. Alan's location history had him checked in at a resort in Santorini that week. Caroline's flight had landed in Athens 2 days earlier. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. Not from rage, but because I suddenly realized how long I'd been the fool. The guy who held her coat, who checked the mail, who watered her plants while she was off rediscovering her youth in other people's arms. The trip to Rome wasn't bold. It was routine. I wasn't the betrayed husband discovering a singular affair. I was a footnote in a romance novel I never got to read, one where I was the scenery, and now I had the index, the chapters, the timestamps, and a partner on the other side just as ready as I was to make it the last edition. You want to destroy them? I asked, the words dry in my mouth. No, Melanie replied, her voice so calm it almost made me angrier. I want clarity. I want leverage. I want silence, followed by silence, the kind that leaves them guessing which mistake finally caught up with them. She had waited 2 days before calling again. I assumed she needed time to process, but it wasn't grief holding her back. It was planning. Alan, she explained, was in the middle of a real estate transaction involving 2 apartment buildings in Phoenix. The properties had been registered under a trust in both their names for years, but now he needed to restructure the ownership to pull in outside investors. That meant getting her signature on a cascade of legal paperwork. He said it's just procedural. Nothing will change, she said, imitating his dismissive tone. But I know the game. He wants my signature on a document that severs my control over the assets, and I've been holding the pen for a week. She paused. Then, I'll sign when I have what I need. A guarantee. What do you want from me? I asked, even though I already knew. Proof, not assumptions, not hunches, a timestamp, a location, a moment. I don't care if it's a kiss, a breakfast, a damn reflection in a mirror. I need them together. Once, just once. And if I get that, I give you full access. Alan's Dropbox, the one he thinks I don't know about. I already cracked his secondary email. There's stuff in there, travel logs, bills, maybe worse, but I won't unlock it until I'm sure I'm not blowing this up over paranoia. I should have hung up or said I needed time. Instead, I said, Caroline brought her iPad. That was the moment I crossed the line, not when she cheated, not when I first reached out to Melanie, but right then, when I decided to play chess instead of scream. The iPad was synced to our home Wi-Fi. Caroline never figured out how to disconnect the auto backup. And knowing her, she'd brought it along to stream shows in the hotel and upload photos to her hidden travel-only folder. She had a habit of forgetting her digital footprints. I had a habit of remembering them. I can install a tracker, I said. If she connects to Wi-Fi again, we'll get location metadata, possibly uploads. Melanie was silent for a beat. Then, do it. I spent the next 3 hours pulling scripts from forms I used back when I was managing mobile device inventory for our old company. Caroline never reset her root passwords. Too lazy. The same 4-digit code for everything. Her digital life was a skeleton key I'd carried in my back pocket for years without knowing how valuable it would become. I built the tracker, tested it, set it to ping me whenever new content was uploaded to her iCloud and whenever her location changed by more than 100 meters. Then I waited. That evening, The first signal hit. Her device had reconnected to the hotel's Wi-Fi in Rome, a Marriott just like she said, but the suite number wasn't the one she told me. She said she'd booked a single. The network identified her device in room 802. Alan's name had been tagged in a public post. Guess where? From the rooftop bar of the same hotel. She didn't even bother to separate the stories, just trusted that I'd never look. At 11:14 p.m. Rome time, a 5-second video was uploaded. I didn't open it, not yet. I waited for Melanie's next call, and when it came, I told her, "We've got something." She didn't ask to see it, not right away. Instead, she said, "When this is over, they won't even realize what moment ruined them. They'll look back, search for some big scene, some dramatic fight, but there won't be one, just silence." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I felt something shift, like I'd just stepped off a moral ledge and landed somewhere colder. Somewhere I wasn't sure I'd come back from. But for the first time, I didn't care. Because the moment I installed that tracker, I stopped being the man things happened to, and became the man who made things happen. The ping came at 6:42 a.m. My phone lit up with a soft buzz, the kind of vibration that usually signals a spam call or an Amazon delivery photo, but this one said, "iCloud upload detected, media file 00875.move, 5 seconds long, 38 megabytes," from Caroline's iPad. I didn't open it immediately. I sat there staring at it, thumb hovering over the screen, heart doing that uneven thing it used to do during job interviews or when I walked through the ER doors the night my father collapsed. Except this wasn't fear, this was something uglier, a cocktail of dread and inevitability. I finally tapped it. No intro, no filter, just a shaky sideways angle like the iPad had been propped on a nightstand and hit record by mistake. Caroline, barefoot, in a white robe I'd never seen before, her hair loose and damp, stood facing a floor-length window. City lights shimmered in the distance. Rome, definitely Rome. You could make out the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in the corner, but none of that was the point. The point was the arm, a man's arm, tanned, veined, familiar in the most nauseating way. It snaked around her waist and pulled her closer. She leaned back against him, smiled faintly, and tilted her head toward his shoulder. No kiss, no moan, just a quiet, stolen peace. Then came the voice, off camera, low, casual, American. "Still think we should have told them?" It was unmistakable. Alan. The video cut off right after. No reply from her. Just the click of a lighter, a brief inhale, and silence. I watched it 3 times. Not because I needed to, but because part of me kept waiting for a punchline, for Caroline to turn around and reveal it was someone else, for the robe to slip and the illusion to shatter. It didn't. I saved the file, created a new folder, labeled it Clarity. Then I sent it to Melanie. No message, no context, just the video. And then, nothing. Not for 30 minutes, not for an hour. By lunchtime, I started wondering if I'd crossed some line even she couldn't follow, if the reality of it, the robe, the arm, the intimacy was too much even for someone as calculated as her. At 2:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Thank you," she wrote. "My turn now." No emojis, no threats, just that, 5 words. I sat back, trying to guess what her turn would look like. I didn't imagine firebombs or confrontations. Melanie wasn't built like that. Her revenge was going to be quieter, surgical, the kind you didn't feel until the bleeding started. I spent the rest of the day walking around our house like a guest, noticed the wedding photo on the shelf, us on the Oregon coast, weaned in her hair, my tie crooked because she'd tugged it loose for the camera. The irony of it made me laugh harder than I should have. I took the photo down and turned it face first. At 6:41 p.m., I got an alert from the tracker. Caroline's iPad had changed locations, a ping from a cafe down the street from the hotel. She was still out there, sipping espresso and lying by omission, probably texting me some vague, "It's beautiful here" update while Alan's hand was on her thigh under the table. I didn't reply. That night, I poured a drink I didn't want and didn't finish it, because the next phase had begun, and this time, I wasn't watching from the sidelines. The email subject line was "Access granted." No message, no greeting, just a single link to a shared folder titled Backup Personal 2014 to 2023. I didn't click right away. I sat there, palms sweating against the keyboard like I was diffusing something live. Melanie had told me she was close, just needed a password reset trick and a security question she already knew the answer to. Where did you meet your spouse? She answered it, during a lie. I clicked the link. What opened was not a few loose receipts or careless selfies. It was an archive, a meticulously kept graveyard of a parallel life, folder after folder labeled by city: Paris 2015, Tokyo 2017, Vancouver 2019, Oslo 2021. Inside each one, PDFs, scans, photos, and digital confirmations that left no room for doubt. Hotel invoices billed to Alan's corporate card. 2 guests, same rooms, same bed preferences. A recurring request noted on several reservations: feather-free pillows for guest 2, Caroline, every time. I opened Florence 2018 and felt the air leave my chest. There were 3 files: a dinner reservation at a Michelin-starred place I'd only heard about on Netflix, a jewelry purchase from a boutique near Ponte Vecchio, and a scanned receipt for 2 matching platinum rings. The engraving fee was listed separately. To my always. I stared at that line for so long I forgot how to blink. Caroline had once told me she hated Florence. Too touristy. Said she'd rather die than go ring shopping in a crowded plaza. Meanwhile, she'd apparently picked out a second wedding band and toasted it with Chianti. I opened the next folder, then the next, and the next. She had visited more countries with him than she had cities with me. She'd flown first class on dates I'd spent cooking dinner alone and assuming she was catching up on emails. She'd missed funerals, birthdays, job milestones, all while wrapped in Egyptian cotton sheets under a different man's name. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was logistical, financial, symbolic. I was the cover story, the constant, the placeholder husband who paid taxes and called her mother on Easter while she spent hotel points on luxury intimacy. There was a file titled Shared Calendar, hidden. Melanie said Alan had used a burner email to create it. I opened it and nearly vomited. It wasn't just trips, there were anniversaries, notes, reminders. March 22nd, 2016, her favorite wine, bring 2. August 5th, 2020, she's nervous, reassure her about the Florence plan. April 4th, 2022, anniversary 9 years, Kyoto. 9 years. 9 years of celebrating a relationship that outlasted most marriages. While I sat on our porch filing taxes or unclogging gutters or ordering her the specific shampoo she liked from that overpriced salon in Seattle. The coldest file was a scanned handwritten note. It was Caroline's handwriting. All of this is ours. Thank you for never making me choose. I closed the laptop, looked at my hand. The ring I'd worn since we were 29 suddenly felt like a paperweight, heavy and useless. I twisted it, stared at it. Imagined the Florence version of her doing the same, running a thumb along a secret engraving while I was home changing the air filters. I didn't throw it. I didn't cry. I just slid it off and set it on the nightstand beside the phone that hadn't buzzed in hours. Melanie didn't need to say anything else. The proof was a sledgehammer in a velvet box. She'd given it to me gently, but it hit all the same. I wasn't blindsided anymore. Now I was armed. The lawyer's office smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner, the kind of place that screams routine paperwork, not premeditated betrayal. But that's where I found myself on a Tuesday morning, 3 days after the ring came off, 2 days before Caroline's return flight, sitting in a stiff leather chair while a man with tired eyes flipped through our marital records like he was sorting coupons. Her name's on the deed, I said, but I need to know if there's a way to move the house into a trust. Quietly. He adjusted his glasses, skimmed the page, and gave a little grunt, the kind lawyers make right before they say something expensive. Depends, he said. Was the property purchased before or after the marriage? Before. But we refinanced it together 5 years in. Then it's joint, but not untouchable. He tapped a pen against the edge of the desk, then leaned in like we were about to plan a bank heist. If you can document the original purchase under your sole ownership and show that the funds came from your separate assets, we have an argument. Set up a revocable trust, move the property under that umbrella, file it now. If she challenges it later, well, it won't be about emotion, it'll be about paper and timing. Timing. I heard Melanie's voice echoing that word in the back of my skull like a warning bell. While the lawyer drafted the documents, I texted her, moving ahead, should be finalized before they land. She replied in less than a minute. Good. Mine too. Alan's been circling a refinance on 2 units, but if I move them out of reach now, he loses leverage with the bank. He won't know it until he's sitting across from the lender, and I'm already gone. She sent me a photo next, a screenshot of her notarized trust agreement with her name and signature, filed 2 hours earlier, the title of the document Melanie Aftermath Trust.pdf. I forwarded it to my attorney with a dry "this, but in my name." The trap wasn't theatrical. There were no monologues, no secret cameras, no dramatic confrontations under pouring rain, just forms, scans, verified signatures, and couriered envelopes, a paper trail that would quietly strangle everything they'd built together in the dark. At home, I began clearing drawers, not angrily, strategically. I boxed up old documents, separated accounts, created a new password spreadsheet, and deleted the shared one we used for 10 years. Erased her face from the Face ID on the safe. I wasn't cleaning house. I was reclaiming territory. That night, I sat on the porch with a legal pad and wrote down everything I knew. Dates, overlaps, receipts, quotes from emails Melanie had sent. Not for court, just for myself. To have a record, not of their betrayal, but of how methodical I'd been since finding out. I wasn't spiraling. I was orchestrating. I called the travel agent we used every few years for our getaways, told him to cancel anything under her name. He asked if I wanted to reschedule. I said no, just delete it. In the evening, Melanie and I had a final call, our voices both steady, no emotion left. We good? She asked. I looked at the copy of the trust paperwork sitting in my inbox. We're good, I said. She didn't say goodbye this time. She just ended the call. I sat in the silence that followed, not with dread, but with something unfamiliar. Control. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was steering. The strike wasn't coming with fists or screaming matches. It was coming in silence, in notarized documents, in legal filings they wouldn't even see until it was too late. And by the time Caroline walked through the door, there wouldn't be anything left for her to lie about. She walked through the door like nothing had changed, like the Rome trip was just a midweek yoga retreat. Tan, rested, smelling faintly of bergamot and some cologne I didn't recognize. Her carry-on rolled smoothly behind her, and she tossed her jacket on the hook like she hadn't just detonated our life and come back to check the damage. I didn't meet her in the foyer. I waited in the kitchen, finishing my coffee, letting her find me instead. When she did, I looked up slowly. She smiled like we were in the middle of something warm, familiar, safe. Hey, you, she said. Flight wasn't bad. I got you something, by the way. Some of that espresso you like. They had a local brand in Trastevere. My mother's coming to stay, I said, setting the mug down. She blinked. What? I invited her. She'll be in the guest room starting Friday. Her smile didn't fade. It cracked. You okay? She asked, watching me closely now. I'm sleeping in the guest room until she leaves. Didn't want to disturb her. You know how light she sleeps. I said it flat, dry, like I was reading grocery items. Not a note of anger, just data. The silence between us was a living thing, not tense, just watchful. Like a dog that doesn't trust you anymore but hasn't bitten yet. She nodded once. Right, sure, that's fine. Then she disappeared upstairs. No hug, no attempt at closure, just a pause in motion. She was calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew, if anything. That's the problem with people who hide things for too long. They forget how to deal with not knowing who's hiding something back. I left the iPad where she'd last seen it, plugged in, unlocked, quietly syncing. I'd even added a shortcut on the home screen to the shared photo stream. No password, no tricks, just bait. She didn't touch it right away. She spent the evening unpacking, making tea, acting like someone waiting for the other shoe to drop without admitting there was a first one. Around 11 p.m., I heard her footsteps in the hallway. Light, barefoot, cautious. I stood in the shadow of the stairs where she couldn't see me and watched her move into the living room, the faint glow of the tablet screen lighting up her face. She opened the Photos app, paused, scrolled, and then froze. The Rome uploads were there. Not all of them, just enough. The video, the reflection, the time-stamped GPS metadata in the corner. I made sure the robe shot was first, the one with Alan's arm around her waist, his voice murmuring off screen. It autoplayed without sound, but she didn't need the audio. She remembered every second. She didn't gasp, didn't cover her mouth in shame or crumble in guilt. She just sat, the kind of stillness you only see in people who've realized there's no bluff left to play. I stayed in the dark, watched her from the hallway as she stared at the screen, motionless. Her tea sat untouched on the side table, steam long gone. She never looked up, never called my name, never said a word, and I didn't offer one either, because this wasn't the confrontation, this wasn't the fight, this was the knowing. And she finally knew that I knew, not in pieces, not in guesses, in full, awful color. When I turned to walk upstairs, I didn't feel victorious. I felt still, like I was part of a machine that had just completed its cycle. There were no screams in this house, only silence. And from that silence, something colder was forming, something sharper. She didn't ask what came next, and I didn't tell her. Let her sit in it. Let her wonder. Let her feel the weight of not knowing for once. The invitation came in a white envelope, hand-delivered to my porch. No return address, just my name in clean, confident handwriting. Inside, a single embossed card. Please join us for an evening of celebration and fundraising hosted by the partners of Eldridge, Sloan, and Barrett LLP. Cocktail attire, RSVP not required. I called Melanie that evening. Didn't ask how she got my address, didn't ask why she was doing it this way. You sure you want me there? I asked. I want them to see you see it, she said. It wasn't about drama. It was about precision, about timing, about control. The kind of revenge that didn't scream. It smiled through pearl earrings and handed you a drink before pulling the floor out from under you. The gala was held at the Downtown Art Museum, one of those modern concrete and glass things with abstract sculptures outside no one understood but pretended to admire. I arrived early, parked where I could see the valet line, watched black cars roll up one by one like sharks in slow motion. At 7:13 p.m., Alan's Mercedes pulled in. He stepped out in a navy suit, checking his cufflinks. Caroline emerged next, in a slate gray evening gown I'd never seen before. Her hand slid into the crook of his arm like it belonged there. They posed at the photo wall, smiled for the cameras. A beautiful couple, charitable, accomplished, adulterous. They disappeared into the gallery, laughing. I waited 5 more minutes, then entered through the side entrance, unnoticed. Melanie arrived at 7:26. She didn't walk in, she arrived. Burgundy gown, hair pinned back, diamond studs that somehow looked more like weapons than jewelry. She shook hands, kissed cheeks, nodded politely at donors who didn't know they were witnessing a slow-motion execution. Alan noticed her first, froze mid-sentence. Caroline, still smiling at someone across the room, followed his gaze. I watched the color drain from her face like someone pulled the plug. Melanie made her way around the room, not once acknowledging either of them. She was cordial, warm, effortlessly graceful. She was also moving like someone on rails, calculated steps, curated pace, building tension with every second she didn't look their way. At 8:04 p.m., the event coordinator tapped the mic, welcomed everyone, thanked the firm, mentioned upcoming auctions and donation matches. Then she smiled. And now, a few words from Mrs. Melanie Barrett. There was a pause. Heads turned. Alan flinched. I saw it. Caroline placed a hand gently on his back, as if to calm a spooked animal. Melanie walked to the mic. No paper, no notes. Just that same calm voice that once said to me, not with noise, with timing. "Thank you for having me," she began. "It's always a joy to support this incredible firm and the causes it stands behind. Tonight, though, I'd like to offer a more personal message." The room shifted, subtle, quiet, like the hush before a storm. "I'd like to thank my husband, Alan," she said, turning slightly in his direction. "He's been incredibly busy this year with travel, so many trips, so much dedication to his extracurricular efforts." Someone near me laughed softly, nervously. She continued, "While he's been occupied, I've also kept busy, reviewing contracts, revisiting asset agreements, and, just last week, finalizing a few changes. She reached into her clutch, pulled out a slim folder. These are copies of the amendments I filed, effective immediately. They remove me from all joint responsibilities and ensure the firm is protected from any personal liabilities its partners may be creating. She turned fully to face Alan now. Alan, consider yourself unpartnered. Dead silence, then murmurs, a few gasps. One champagne flute clinked against the floor and rolled awkwardly. Melanie smiled, not cruelly, not triumphantly, just peacefully. She stepped back from the mic. Alan was stone. Caroline didn't even look at him. Her eyes were scanning the room, searching for an exit. For me, I stood in the shadows, watching it all. Not gloating, just witnessing. Melanie walked past me on her way out. Didn't stop, didn't even glance. Just brushed her fingers lightly against my arm as she passed. It was done. They weren't destroyed, but they were seen. And there's something worse than being ruined. It's being revealed. The silence was different that morning. Not the kind that follows an argument or fills the space between two people too tired to talk. No, this silence had weight, finality. It felt like someone had packed up a ghost and moved it out in the middle of the night. I walked downstairs expecting the usual ritual, half-empty coffee cup, a robe draped over the back of a chair, the faint scent of her perfume hanging in the air like unfinished business. None of it. The kitchen was clean, chair tucked in, counter wiped down. I stood in the hallway for a minute listening, for water, for movement, for her, nothing. Then I saw the closet, the empty gap where her suitcase used to sit. Gone. I checked the bedroom. Drawers open but half full. She didn't take everything, just what mattered, just what she didn't want me holding on to when it was over. I didn't panic. I didn't call. I sat at the desk, opened my laptop, and saw the single email waiting. Sent at 3:47 a.m. Subject line, no excuses, no greeting, no goodbye, just this. I don't deserve a response, but I saw it, all of it. Do what you need to do. There was one attachment, a scanned letter, yellowed paper, slight creases like it had been folded and unfolded too many times. It wasn't addressed to her by name, but it didn't need to be. I read the first line and already knew it was Alan's handwriting. Flowery, overconfident. Sometimes I think we were meant to live this life on borrowed time, and sometimes I think I was just too much of a coward to make it real. 3 paragraphs of indulgent musings followed. Phrases like, "When we're together, the world stops, and you give me something no one else does." It ended with the sentence that hit like the last nail in a too small coffin. "I love what we have, but I'll never leave her. You know that." She'd kept this for years, never mailed, never burned, just held onto it like a souvenir from a place that never fully existed. It wasn't a love letter, it was a leash. I closed the document, didn't save it, didn't forward it, didn't need to. I hit delete, then emptied the trash. I didn't know where she went, didn't care. Maybe she ran to him, hoping the ashes were still warm enough to rekindle something. Maybe she drove to her sister's place and collapsed on the couch with some line about being misunderstood. What mattered was this. For the first time in years, the air in this house felt breathable, clean, like the rot had finally aired out. There was no victory speech, no need for one. The revenge wasn't rage. It wasn't shouting or throwing things or slamming doors. It was rejection. Twice over. Alan told her she was never worth leaving for. I showed her she was no longer worth staying for. Outside, the wind shifted. Sunlight pushed through the blinds and slats, sharp and honest. I stood there for a long while, not angry, not broken, just done. Yeah, and in that stillness, I finally understood. Sometimes the cleanest cut is the one you don't watch bleed.